It's week 26 on the Appalachian Trail, and Barbie and I have reached the shelter and the privy called Your Move. That is a dual privy where you can play games while going number 2. Barbie wouldn't play games with me while pooping, but it seemed like a fun idea. Maine was really tough, but it was also extremely beautiful. So far, to me, it felt like Maine was a beautiful mixture of New Hampshire and Vermont. Besides my birthday, it seemed that the weather had taken a little bit of pity on us, and it was beautiful, crystal clear blue skies and views for miles around. It was one of the good days on the AT. It's a beautiful morning on Saddleback Mountain. Made it up to Saddleback Mountain. Look at how absolutely gorgeous this stunning mountain view is. Even though I was still very mentally and physically pretty exhausted, Maine was absolutely beautiful, and I was trying to soak in every possible second of this gorgeousness. In my head, I knew that we had reached Maine, the final state of the trail, but in my heart, it didn't feel like this was so close to ending. Another stunning Maine summit and the views from the Horn. And then before we knew it, we were on yet another summit, and this one was the summit of Saddleback Jr. with more stunning views, and from here we could even see the Horn that we were just standing atop of a little while ago. I will say that although New Hampshire and Maine were pretty tough states, the alpine zones were pretty freaking spectacular. Though I will say that I was extremely grateful to be experiencing these alpine zones with beautiful clear weather, so we didn't have to be afraid of getting struck by lightning or anything. As each day brought the end closer and closer, I really tried to appreciate the little things again, just like I had in the beginning, like getting to wake up in the woods every morning and hear the birds chirping. And the first thing that I did every day was walk in these peaceful forests. And I was reminding myself of just how much I would miss that in just a few weeks. I'm sure this marker is for the Sobos. But we only have 200 miles till Katahdin. 200 miles left to do. 2,000 miles! We did it! Now, we've got less than 200 more. 198.4, but we walked 2,000 miles. What the heck? $2,000 miles. Time to finish this bad boy. I love how many markers there are for those who walk past the first one. I'd love to say that I had some kind of wild epiphany when hitting the 2,000 mile mark, but just as I had felt at the 100 mile mark, it was hard to believe that I had walked 2,000 miles. The fir trees all along the trail today have smelled like Christmas, and I love it. Today we did South Carter and North Carter. And tomorrow we have the Bigelow Range, and yeah, then I think we're done with we're done with the last of the 4Ks until we get to Katahdin. But yeah, the trees today have smelled like Christmas, and even though it's only September, I love that. I will say that hitting the 2,000 mile mark did make me emotional, that we had so little left, and showed me just how much I needed to appreciate the little few moments that I had left. And so when my mom offered to take us into Stratton for a mini resupply and lunch, how could I say no to spending time with my mom and some delicious real food? This was the Backstrap Grill in Stratton, Maine. So as of this far, Barbie and I have not slack packed any 4Ks. The parts that we slack packed were just stuff that we wanted to get over and hike through. And also, even though I'm slack packing, still a purist. Not necessarily pure purist, but still touching every one of these bad boys. And I'm Novo slack packing, which is very weirdly important to me. So
It's just how I am. It's just my personality. Anyways, so we did not slack pack the saddlebacks, which we did the last few days. And today we are doing one last day of slack packing, and we are doing the 16-ish miles from, I think it was Route 17. I don't know, wherever Stratton is. And then we are slack packing the Bigelows all the way to East Flagstaff Road. Yeah, so last 4K until Katahdin. Woo, sorry, going over a bridge. But yeah, last 4K until Katahdin today. Excited and hoping that the terrain is a little bit friendlier. But it's mixed feelings. Definitely mixed feelings. Excited to be at this point. Sad that it's almost over. But yeah, excited to hike up the Bigelows.
Also, I just want to make a point to say that I don't care if other people slack pack. It was just a weird thing that I felt that I wanted to do. I really wanted to go the entire trail with my own full pack on my back, but slack packing over the last few days had brought me a little bit more peace and sanity, and that was worth everything. Plus, the slack packing meant I got to see my mom at all the road crossings, and that was a gift in itself. I really and truly was going to miss walking through these beautiful green forests and breathing in this beautiful, fresh mountain air every day. And I don't think that I realized, or that any of us realize, how much we're going to miss it until the end starts drawing nearer and nearer. And at the beginning, I was really good at capturing everything, every single minute moment, every summit, every bad moment, every good moment. But as the trail went on, you start to get used to all of those things, and they don't become as unique. And now that we've reached the end, I am back to capturing every single moment, because I just know that I'm gonna miss all those little mundane moments that seem so little but really make up this whole big picture of this amazing trail. Also, can we take a moment for how beautiful this cloudy but also clear view is? I love how the clouds were sitting on top, but then underneath them you could see all the mountains below.
If you can sing 2,000 miles into this ordeal, it's pretty impressive.
You have to. You gotta do something.
I had gotten to the point where I would sing randomly on the trail, like about being at the last 4K till Katahdin. And when I had done that at this sign, there was a day hiker there, and he figured that I was a thru hiker, and he was like, well, it's good if you're still singing. And I, of course, told him that, well, sometimes you gotta sing, because that's all you can do, is sing to yourself to make the days better.
We didn't really plan to come down this blue blaze to Old Man's Head, but Barbie was leading. And it is beautiful. This is what happens when I let this lead.
Barbie had a tendency, and he had done this since Georgia, that if he didn't see the white blazes, he just kind of veered off. And so that is why I led most of the time.
If I thought I saw a trail, I took a trail.
Whether or not that trail had white blazes was questionable. Barbie wanted to interject on one of my videos. After our unplanned detour, we of course made it back to the white blazes and to this beautiful spot. This was the beautiful rocky beach at Flagstaff Lake. We were cutting it a little close to get to camp. We had been supposed to meet my mom to get our stuff back after slack packing, and she had a little trouble getting down the road because it was a dirt road. I felt super guilty because she was trying to get down a dirt road in the van, but she did make it, and we made it back on the trail with our stuff. The next day we finished up going around Flagstaff Pond, and then also ended up going around a few more ponds. Maine was full of beautiful lakes and ponds, and I wanted to swim in all of them. I did not, because we were trying to get some miles down, but just look at how gorgeous this one is. I'm not sure exactly which one this one is, but just look how blue those waters look, and with the mountains in the background, spectacular. Every time we were in a new state, it just absolutely amazed me, the different things that we would see and just how uniquely beautiful they all were. If you listen closely, you can hear the loons, and this was Barbie and I's first time hearing them. According to Google, there are loons in North Carolina, but I have never heard them. So it felt pretty magical to be laying in the shelter that night and to hear that magical call of the Maine loons out across the water. It was such a beautiful sound. And I got to collect the bird on my Merlin bird app, and that's always pretty fun. The next morning, we made our way to Harrison's Pierce Pond Camp, which we had heard amazing things about. The wonderful people that own this camp are very friendly to anglers and to hikers, and they offer this wonderful breakfast. And so Barbie and I were headed to get some of their famous pancakes, which were red, white, and blue pancakes, and they were blueberry flavored, and oh gosh darn, they were delicious. And he even started playing the piano for us while we were there. This was just one of those experiences that was just so magical on the trail, and then just further showed the kindness of strangers. And it was one of those things that made this trail like nothing I had ever experienced before. And it once again kept giving me so much more faith in humanity. After leaving Harrison's Pierce Pond Camp, it was time to make the trek over the Kennebec River and get the little canoe ride to safely cross this powerful and beautiful Maine River.
Today's a good day. I have no wind. I have just enough water. It's not too high, it's not too low. Beautiful day. Hi, Mom.
She did ask me to send her a picture, so.
Our canoe ride across the river was wonderful. I actually did not get to ride across with Barbie, but that was okay because that meant that I got to video him coming across after, of course, I videoed myself going across so that I could send it to my mom that we were making the crossing at the iconic Kennebec. So for those who are unfamiliar with the AT, people used to actually cross the Kennebec as a river crossing, so they would walk through the river. But after a numerous amount of accidents and deaths, the Appalachian Trail Conservancy started this little ferry with the canoe service so that hikers could safely get across. After our crossing of the Kennebec River, we walked into Caratunk and the Sterling Inn, and we got some little snacks, and then we headed back out on the water. And although we needed to do some more mileage since we had fiddle farted into town, once I saw Pleasant Pond, I couldn't not go for a swim. It was too beautiful, and we had too few moments left on this trail. So I was like, Barbie, I have to go swimming. We'll do more miles after.
We took some time in town today to do a mini resupply in Caratunk. And the ferry took some time, and we had breakfast at Harrison's Pierce Pond, and it was awesome. So we felt like we should have been pushing some bigger miles, but instead we are taking a little break and swimming in the lake. Actually, I think it's a pond, but we're swimming in the pond, and it's a beautiful day.
This was one of my favorite moments from the last few weeks on trail, and honestly, probably my favorite swim that we did the entire trail. It just felt so magical to go through the forest into this pond, and it was such a beautiful day, and I was just so grateful to have taken the time to experience Pleasant Pond in Maine. And really, this scene just looks like something out of a fairy tale or like something you'd see on the cover of a storybook. Something that we'd learned this far into the trail was that even if we didn't make the miles we were going to make that day, if we were just behind one or two, in the grand scheme of things, it didn't really matter all that much, and we were able to make up those miles the next day. But sometimes we had to remind ourselves of this. Do you remember that rainbow video I just showed like a few seconds back? Well, right after that, I snapped my brand new trekking pole that Barbie had just gotten me for my birthday in half. It was a very kind of scary moment because I slipped and Barbie heard the crack and he thought it was me cracking and not my pole.
Moxie Bald, you are beautiful.
I was not happy about my brand new section of pole breaking, but I was very grateful that it wasn't me and that I was fine. And even though I was physically fine, mentally I was really disappointed that my new pole had just broken, but oh well. As we started our descent of Moxie Bald, we reached what was one of my favorite sections of the trail in Maine. It looked like the trail just kind of went off the edge of a cliff, but it didn't feel unsafe, and the view was absolutely beautiful. It seemed like something out of a fairy tale.
Just a little froggy chilling in Bald Mountain Pond.
All the lakes and ponds in Maine were just absolutely magical. I wished we had time to swim in all of them. They were just such a pretty blue color and were super clear, and the fact that they had mountains in the background just made them all the more picturesque. I also obviously loved seeing the bullfrogs. They were so beautiful, and I mean, look at those eyes and the texture on him. He was very cool, and I tried very hard to stay silent so that I wouldn't scare him away. So this ghost is a little ghost that made home in our tent after we saw my mom for my birthday until we reached Katahdin. Barbie decided that he wanted to name him Taco, and he lit up our tent for the last few weeks of the trail and brought us a little bit of early spooky Halloween joy. And then before we knew it, we had made it to Monson, Maine, which for those who are unfamiliar with the AT, Monson is basically the last civilization you're in before you go to the 100-mile wilderness. We were enjoying a snack with my mom at Spring Creek Barbecue in Monson. Barbie was wearing his fantastic loner clothes, and we were just celebrating being in this iconic spot and this spot that is the last one before the last big push for Katahdin. So I'm going to be honest, most of the trail was relatively easy for us to plan and to figure out, but the wood things and the hoops that we had to jump through to climb Katahdin, while very much worth it, the effort that you have to go to with the ATC to plan your end of Katahdin is very complicated and confusing, which was just very interesting to us after everything we'd been through. I was also super grateful to have my mom around because she was able to officially sew back up my shorts. Also, when we got to Monson, we were of course staying in the iconic Shaw's hostel. Although we weren't actually staying in the hostel, we were in some of the little yurts out back, and I have to be honest, they were absolutely amazing, and we really loved Shaw's, and it was so cool to be at this iconic spot that you hear about in basically every AT adventure. When we left Shaw's the next morning, we were starting the 100-mile wilderness and what we thought was our last week on the Appalachian Trail.